Hey everyone, it's Romeo here, and if you've just joined us, every month I try to interview different people who are either trans or related to someone trans or is in a relationship with someone, trans related people or people who have inspired me with my own transition. And today I'm really excited because we have who are you?
I am Amy Fox.
And I don't know, do you remember how we met?
Yeah, we met in an acting class like 2 years
Yeah,
ago. It'll be
almost
two
two
years
years
ago.
ago. At some point in during acting classes, we had to film our own demo reel, and Amy happened to be helping that day when I was filming mine, and for one of the scenes, it was Fresh Prince of
Prince of
Bel
Bel
Air.
Air.
Yeah, and I remember when we were gonna get into it, Amy was like, "Oh, which role are you gonna play?" And I'm like, "Oh, Will Smith," and she's like, "Oh, the guy." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I was kind of thinking about transitioning or it's crossed my mind and I've been dwelling on it this year." And then yeah, Amy just told me oh, I think you said 6 or 7 years, like
Oh, for me, yeah, I came out as transgender in 2006 and
yeah.
started the social and physical process of transition more intensively in 2007.
Yeah, so
It is now 2014 for those of you who are watching this in the future.
so yeah, that tripped me out. I'm like, what? Because even before that, I was meeting other people too. They just started popping up one after the other once I just started thinking about it for myself. So yeah, I'm really lucky to have met you. To honestly, so you began your transition. When was it?
2006, I came out to myself, and then in
Yeah.
2007, pronouns, estrogen, progesterone, legal name change, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's treated
Yeah.
me very well. Just so everyone's aware, my name is Amy. I am going in a male to female, or have gone. I'm going in a male to female direction. I just wound up being butch partway through, which was kind of a surprise, and was kind of a radical gender act at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember you telling me, and also I think I read in one of your interviews or bios, it said that back when you started, it wasn't a big known thing.
Oh
You're one
no,
of the
good
few,
grief, no.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
at the time, I was the only like tomboyish MTF spectrum person that I met, and that continued for about the first year I met someone else who was more I don't know, more on the nerdy, geeky, slightly andro side, but in terms of meeting people who were actually no, I'm also butch. It took about 2.5 years
Yeah.
to meet anyone else. Other people had heard of someone who had transitioned and been androgynous or butch or what have you, but they'd all it was I think there's someone in Ontario somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where she went to. I think
Really
maybe
rare.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now there's MTF Butch Tumblr. Or,
Yeah, yeah, it's
okay.
blew up in the past few years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, yeah, people like you and people before have really just paved the way because actually, last night I was researching gender change on ID and name change and all that stuff, and it said that BC just finally changed the rules where I don't think you need to have surgery at all to change the gender.
You mean on your birth certificate?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and everywhere.
This is what I've heard. I actually am a little embarrassed not to know the details. It's been the case for a while in your driver's license.
Yeah,
That you don't need
yeah,
surgery. You just need your doctor to say
Mhm.
yes, change their name, or
yeah.
change their gender marker, and then the name change is a separate process.
Yeah, I was actually surprised because um I didn't think that was the case before, because my friend was saying, oh no, you have to have the top surgery and I think bottom surgery for male to female, right?
Uh, there was a vaguely defined surgical requirement for someone MTF that was interpreted
Mm.
as being bottom surgery, and for people FTM, there were different interpretations of it.
Yeah.
If you could get a doctor to sign a note saying that you have had gender reassignment surgery,
Yeah. Then it passes.
then that because they're not going to check your pants when you
Yeah.
go in. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Are there things that you miss pre-transition now that you're more female?
Yeah, peeing standing up without making a giant
Oh my
mess.
god. Yeah. And I I wish I could do that. Also I remember you telling me before after class I think I dropped you off near your place and you had your bike with you
Yeah.
and you were taking it out and one of the things you said was one thing I do miss is upper body strength. Like,
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Like, so I started going to the gym to lift weights.
yeah, yeah,
And before transition, I didn't get a lot of physical exercise. I had no like investment in my own physical health. And I didn't want to feel like I was in my body.
yeah,
So I didn't get any exercise. And like after transition, going to the gym twice a week and doing a whole bunch of exercise, I can do almost as many chin-ups as before when
Yeah.
I was a couch potato.
yeah.
It's just
It's crazy because I'm like feeling the reverse of what you're feeling. Like I'm like doing chin ups. I'm like holy shit. Like at first when I like tried, I'm like okay 1, 2, 3, and then it's honestly just getting easier. I'm like this is cheating. Like honestly, as a woman, like you just have to work like triple times the amount as guys, or like guys don't even have to try. It's just like what, lift this building? Sure, why not? Like it's crazy. Are there other things that you miss? Like
well, the upper body strength is definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I mean, in terms of social stuff,
Yeah.
one of the things that I was kind of surprised by is that as a woman who presents as kind of like masculine of center, certainly quite butch for a woman by female standards in our society, I actually get treated pretty well. Like I enjoy a lot of forms of male privilege that most women don't experience. It's not the
Yeah.
same as being like a cis dude, but prior to transition, I was perceived as a feminine man. And people were
Yeah.
like, "So what's this fag doing here?"
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like the people
Oh.
were not. Now they're like, "Oh, what's this dyke doing here?" However,
Yeah.
what's this dyke doing here is actually like kind of a better place to be in this
Yeah.
society, in my experience.
that's pretty. Yeah, that's kind of sad. Like, but I can see that. Yeah,
Because people kind of before they're like, "You are failing to be a man," and now they're like, "You are failing to be a woman, but you're acting like a man." So that's
Yeah.
like 1 out of 2. It's like, wow, sexist.
yeah. I've actually experienced something similar to like when I was working on set for that gay waiter role. Oh yeah, by the way, I booked a role like last month on Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, and it was for a gay waiter, male. So I was like, sweet. But when I went on set, like I was just referred to as like, oh, gentleman, like he, him. I was like, cool, this is cool, whatever. But I noticed too that the difference, like being treated as a woman as opposed to being treated as a guy, like I mean, as a female, like I was treated well, yeah, but at the same time, I kind of felt like I was more like babied in a way. Like I was treated like I was kind of fragile. But as a guy, it's just like, oh, you're one of the guys, and like I mean, everyone was like respectful and like nice and everything. But yeah, another thing too, like working as a female, like there was like cases of borderline sexual harassment and stuff like that. Like I don't really feel that from being a guy now, like working, like the potential of that. I don't know. Yeah. You're like, okay.
I don't really know what else to add, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, in terms of being an actor, I only really started auditioning for things after I was
Oh,
very
yeah.
far into transition.
Yeah, yeah.
Before that, I only did I went to LARPs, which isn't exactly like anyone can go to a LARP, right? And then
Oh, what's that?
Oh, live action role playing. You dress up as a
Oh,
character and
okay.
you show up and you tell the story that goes on from month to month to month.
Yeah, Kieran was telling me about
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like when I met her
That's
on
actually
set,
how I know Kieran.
Yeah, when I met her on set of Tomorrow People, I was just telling her about transitioning. She's like, "Oh, like, do you know Amy?" I'm like, "Yeah, Amy Fox." And then like she said that you guys do that.
Yeah.
And she said you're awesome at it and stuff.
Oh,
And like
thanks.
it was a cool experience because she said like right when she just anytime I guess she like acts with you, you two are so natural. Like everyone's just like how the hell like.
Well, that was the first time I met Kieran. We were at a LARP where we were both playing gender odd cyborgs, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I was playing this character who was taken out of time from 1989, who
Yeah.
was a forger working in the transgender community in Detroit.
Yeah.
And she was MTF, and Kieran was in drag playing
Oh yeah.
maybe drag's the wrong term for it, but anyway, Kieran was presenting in a male fashion,
Yeah.
playing this like very quiet, nerdy boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Oh, by the way, Kieran Strange is a singer and she's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like is that something that you like to do like often? The LARP thing or
Oh,
like
yeah, I went last night.
Cosplay. Oh, okay.
Cosplay, Not as much. I find that I like that other people doing it. I just always find when I pull it off, it's like, oh, this anime costume just doesn't quite look the same in real life.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's not as much the case as say like superhero spandex, which in real life really does not cut it.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter like I don't mean in terms of people's body type. I mean spandex just doesn't look badass in real life.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no.
No, it doesn't. Like, I'm trying to think like how can it be badass? It's like no.
Spandex isn't badass. You can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went last night. I was playing a 1,200-year-old vampire having a house party.
Nice.
And then a week before that, I was playing a kind of a refugee from a moon colony.
Yeah. So it's like super just like random and just anything goes, right?
Well, there's different. You can tell any story you want.
Yeah.
So the ones we're playing are like White Wolf. They sort of came out of this sort of like Anne Rice kind of like modern fantasy stuff that's spun into like more contemporary YA, like young adult things. So the other one that I'm playing in is about people who've been kidnapped by the fairies and got their way back to Earth, and to find out that they've changed in some capacity. And there's people are doing so much interesting gender stuff with this. Like geek culture didn't used to be so good about gender.
Yeah.
I'll just you can look it up look up like 1998 geek culture was like online. I don't want to get into it right now. It was not good. But now people are like you have cis people playing trans people playing cis people playing across genders, people one kind of trans person playing a different kind of trans person, people doing stuff with like someone's like, I'm asexual but my character is heterosexual, or I'm someone's bisexual and their character's asexual, and it's just like this wonderful spectrum of play.
Yeah. So it's not just like one thing. It's like I guess as time's passed, like it's just gotten better in general, right?
Yeah. It's gotten a lot better, and there's even LARPs now that are specifically doing things with social justice issues. Something interesting that's been going on with LARP, and I've seen with a lot of games, if you look at online blogs about things like called Jeep form, which is this Nordic style of like screwing with a lot of LARP concepts, is this thing called bleed. And bleed is when you take something that has an emotional relevance for you in life and weave it into the story that you're doing in game.
Okay.
So
wow, there's so much to it. Like there's...
Well, it's a medium. It's just like, what kind of stories can you do with television or theater, and what can it mean to you?
Yeah.
It's a huge range, right?
Yeah.
So that LARP that Kieran and I met at, I had recently come from Nelson, where a friend of mine had been repeatedly attacked, and it just felt like we couldn't do anything to stop this.
Yeah.
And I was playing this character who was one of the more privileged people in a transgender community in Detroit in 1989. Like, this is like during the AIDS epidemic under Reagan. Like, this is not a good time to be transgender. And she'd been pulled out of time, and then was the person who would go and kidnap people for the fairies. But her logic was, like, often anything can be better than where you're stuck on Earth. And she had been then basically kicked out of the fairy world and come back to Earth, and found out that she just couldn't let this go. There was this sort of, I didn't even know what was going on. I just wrote something that really spoke to me, and then I was realizing later, no, I have some issues. It's what it means to be the person who's around it when there's bad things happening to other people on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And then in the more recent LARP, I am playing a character who is kind of a bit of a Chelsea Manning analog. She used to be tied into the American military R&D system, and leaked a bunch of information, and then got kidnapped, not by the fairies, but the American military. And then the fairies came for her at one point. She was just like, I don't want to remember any of this. I want to try my life again. Please, thank you.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, fine. Well, you can come and build stuff for us instead. And they're maybe not the nicest people, but she got this other life, which is something that a lot of transgender people feel that they missed.
Yeah.
So I'm playing this character who doesn't remember any of that, and she's a high school student now. And there's a bunch of other people who are playing high school students, and one of the other players is trans, and another one is exploring her genderqueer side. And so there's this space that people have to like be like, okay, what does it mean to be an adolescent in a cisnormative world? That people really get to play with. There's also a game called Monster Hearts that was developed by my friend Avery, which is about shifting notions of body and sexuality and identity over adolescence, told through this. The backstory of it was there was this game that was like very Mad Max style. It was called Apocalypse World, and it was like cars and guns in the post-apocalyptic future. And someone online said, could someone hack this so you could play Twilight? And Avery said, challenge accepted. And then they went out and read Twilight and went like, okay, I have to, like, I have certain, I can't just make this. And they made this amazing story about queerness and identity and maturity. That's also fun. And you get to do a lot of really stupid shit in character. So that was the part about LARP and games. You should go check this stuff out. Avery McDaldno is also making story games on a regular basis that deal with body and identity. They made Abnormal, which is about body horror, and they made this expansion for this anime action game that was like Dark Pokemon, but it was in a world with 6 genders where they don't explain where the 6 genders are. They just
6 genders, shit.
they just list these different gender identities, and it's like, what are these things?
With like your transition, are there some obstacles you faced or like still face today?
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure there's like quite a bit, or just
or
not.
I mean, there's 2 aspects to me being transgender. One is that I'm transsexual. I've gone from male to female. And the other is that I'm gender variant. And the 2 intersect in different ways. So often when I tell someone that I'm transgender, they assume that I am transitioning to male, which is peculiar because a lot of FTM spectrum people, if they're far along in transition, if they tell someone that they're transgender, they're like, oh, you're becoming a woman, because that's the only kind of transgender I know about. But people see me and they're like, oh, right, I saw the L word. Like that. Difficulties, though. I mean, if I present in an especially feminine fashion, I'm more likely to get clocked as transsexual. There's a bit of hate stare there. There's a bit of, like, physical danger. I still have greater passing privilege than a lot of other transsexual women, so I can go some places, but still there's okay, I could get killed if I do this. And then, like, day to day, how I present, people assume on the FTM spectrum, so like I kind of get to pick what kind of trans I want to present as. That's kind of cool.
Like, you get the best or worst of both worlds, I guess. Like,
but the problem, it's like I can't. It's like you can pick any kind of trans you want, but I can't like present as like just like constantly cis. Like, there's no. Oh, you can just go here and fit in.
I think that's awesome, actually, that you like are gender variant too. You know, because like I find that like FTMs that I know of, it's like, okay, I really just want to be seen as male, but like I think that's really cool that you are cool to be seen as, like, you know,
well,
a little bit of both, like, or androgynous, right?
I'm good to be perceived as androgynous. I do identify as female. I have a binary gender identity and a non-binary gender presentation. But when people find out I'm transgender and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was calling you she. I thought your name was Amy. It must have been Jamie." It's like, well, they're trying to be respectful. And that's what I really care about. You know?
I can see why people would like be like, "Oh shit." So you're for the Switch. You're the producer, writer. You're an actor. Are you the creator as well?
I'm one of the 2 creators. Okay. The other creator is Elizabeth Marston. And I am the executive producer, line producer, one of the writers, and one of the actors.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Actually, there are several executive producers. I'm the one who has been the executive producer for like 4 years now.
Cool. So for people who don't know what the Switch is, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. The Switch is a magical realist transgender comedy series. It is a television show. We are shooting the first season in January. It was the first transgender comedy ever to broadcast. It was the first TV show to have a transgender lead actor. It was the first TV show to have multiple transgender lead actors. It's a lot of firsts. It's also very much socially responsible project. Think we go to a lot of trouble to try and make sure that what we do is representative of the community, which is a strange thing for like a fantasy comedy show to be like, this has to be accurate. So
Oh yeah,
what is
yeah.
the show is ridiculous and completely unrealistic, except for all the stuff to do with like marginalization and oppression,
Yeah.
which is usually based on people's lived experiences.
Yeah.
The sorcerers and pixies, however, we have not done that in full consultation with the sorceress and pixie community. I'm sorry. Please don't curse me.
Does your like interest in LARP kind of tie in with the creation of this show?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the ability to create your own world. Like,
Yeah.
the show is saturated with geek culture. It's taking a
Yeah.
lot of genre elements that were found in, like, web comics and web series and anime and comic books and going, okay, we're going to make a TV series with all of this.
Yeah.
Like, the closest analogy I can think of in terms of, like, live-action North American media would be Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had just the puberty squeak right now, like the voice cracking and stuff. Oh yeah, like people can even check out the pilot episode
That
online.
they can, yeah.
right?
It's going to be up for a little bit longer. It's going to have to come down soon
Mm.
because of cooperating with our broadcasters.
Oh, yeah, that's
But
right,
if you
yeah.
go to www.welovetheswitch.com, you can find out all about the show, and I believe we have a link to the pilot.
Yeah.
Pardon me. If we don't have a link to the pilot, we will have a link to our Kickstarter, which will have a link to the pilot in it.
Cool. How did you go about like creating the show, or like it's like been an idea that you've had going for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling me like when I first met you, and I saw the earlier pilot, or I think it was a trailer. Was it the pilot episode? It was another.
There was a web pilot.
Yeah.
We shot a web pilot, and it got picked up as a TV series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool to just see like the progression of it, you know, like an idea come into like, and like how big it's got. Like they had a Kickstarter project going on, and you surpassed your goal. Right?
Yeah, we asked the world for $50,000, and the world gave us $62,720.
That's
For which we are very grateful, and
Yeah.
we will make the best show that we can. We also have a tax credit coming from last year, hopefully one coming from this year. We look like we'll have some kind of a broadcaster commitment, and with that, we'll be able to make a pretty decent show. Admittedly, one where we shoot the entire season for less than the price of an episode of
Yeah.
a fairly cheap cable show.
Yeah.
But still, we're making a TV show.
Yeah, like that's great. Like, and I remember when your Kickstarter started, like, it was just there was a lot of supporters right away, right?
Yeah, there was.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
That's
Well,
awesome.
there's a lot of community hunger for what we're doing.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
want interesting, accurate, fun, hopeful transgender representation. And people have not only supported us on Kickstarter, we've had an amazing amount of community support here. People have helped us with accounting services. People have helped us with transportation or catering or security or film gear or acting or coaching lessons for actors or writing or production. Just like everything in our show we have had some kind of community help with, and it would not be possible without this amazing level of support. Like, the money is
Yeah.
just a small part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I even saw I think maybe a few people on YouTube who have like transition like channels of their own. They've mentioned the show too.
Yeah.
So like I think everyone's just like super supportive and like really wants this to happen. Like that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice for fellow like trans folk or people who are supporters of trans or are like, you know, considering transitioning themselves? It's a lot.
It's a pretty big field. In
Yeah.
what area specifically?
Like, well, like when I met you, and when I met Amy, I was kind of just, you know, I just mentioned a little bit, like, you know, I was considering the thought of transitioning because I've always wanted to be a guy, and that's why I was doing that Fresh Prince Will Smith's like lines, not the female lines. Yeah, in the scene, like he was arguing with this girl that he liked, but yeah, I remember like when you came over to you and Tina, like I think it was me, you and Tina, we were practicing lines for monologues for class, and but I think even before that, I think you just gave me so much info, and like and how to go about it. Like I've had friends tell me how to about it too, and but like yeah, you gave me like a lot more info
Thanks.
too. Yeah.
I guess part of what holds a lot of people up in transition is there's this kind of nameless fear. And some of it's the fear of change, because you can do a lot of transgender stuff in private if you have some degree of privacy in your house. If you're very young and your parents go through all of your stuff, you may not have this, or if you're in prison or something like that. But if you have your own room, you can do a lot. Like you can dress. You can probably get your hands on some hormones if you want to try it out. You can try binding or packing or stuffing or tucking or what have you, and then you can stop. You can just do it for an hour in your room and feel to see how it feels, and then you can stop when you're done.
Yeah.
And that's it. Even hormones. Like when I started transition, I actually had the fortune to have a supportive couple of doctors, and they said, well, just try it and see how it feels.
Yeah.
And it felt really good.
Good. How can viewers follow you in your work?
Oh, okay. Well, we have been a little absent on social media because my company just finished shooting a feature. But we're going to be back on our Tumblr and our Twitter. I don't think we're on Pinterest. And Facebook. And you can check out any of these for regular updates. And you can hear all about what's new with the Switch there.
Are there any other, like, aside from the Switch, are there any other like cool projects that you're working on?
Oh, well, to be honest, I specifically decided not to try and multitask
because
the next 4 months. But yeah, down the road, we're looking at making more LGBT-friendly media. There's a TV series in development that involves transgender representation that we might have a hand in. There's a movie about a lesbian in the wilds of BC that we might have a hand in. Let's see, other than that, that's most of it off the top of our head. There's always like some projects that are vaguely in development. We don't know if they'll go anywhere, but there's talk about a science fiction series of some kind. I don't know if it's gonna get off the ground or not, but it could be pretty cool if it does.
Yeah. So if like they can probably catch all of that, is it all on your the site with the Switch, or like you have your own separate site as well for your productions?
We have a company website, but right now it just forwards to the Switch because that is
that's
all we're
main
focusing
focus.
on right now. But yeah,
cool.
Things will be coming out on our Twitter.
Yeah. Do you know? Oh yeah, you said next summer is when.
Yep.
You're aiming for.
Yeah, the Switch should broadcast next summer.
Cool. So you guys should totally check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thanks for your
doing
time.
the interview, and we'll see you guys next month.